Columbus is low-key the best movie of 2017, or, at the very least, it's easily in the top 10. It's an auteur film with a strong vision, two wonderful lead performances, an emotional and relatable story, and expertly composed cinematography capturing beautiful scenery. And yet, despite receiving overwhelmingly positive reviews, Columbus garnered neither major awards nor widespread popularity. Columbus is the directorial debut of Kogonada, an acclaimed video essayist whose film analysis videos were commissioned by Sight and Sound, Criterion, or the British Film Institute. He's a keen student of the works of Japanese director Yasujiro Ozu, having made several video essays about his movies. He even named himself after Kogonada, Ozu's frequent screenwriter. And for his first movie, Kogonada put his knowledge of Ozu to good use. Ozu's films are small-scale family dramas, often set in people's houses. Their stories frequently focus on the pitfalls of filial piety and relationships. Interior scenes of Columbus resemble Ozu's shot compositions, as seen in Early Summer from 1951.
There is one edit that I always knew I was going to be on, that I was going to have. It is a hallway cut shot that he does in Early Summer that moves between two hallways. You know, it feels like a point of view, and then it cuts and it's a different hallway. I always loved that shot, yeah.
Columbus also shares themes with Ozu's work in general and his 1949 film Late Spring in particular. Here, a young woman is reluctant to move on with her life as she feels the need to care for her elderly father. Columbus covers a chance encounter between lead characters Casey and Jin. Casey is a recent high school graduate who works a low-level job at a library. She has no prospect of becoming an actual librarian because she would need a college degree she can't afford. Although she keeps hearing about her great potential, she knows she won't be leaving Columbus anytime soon. Even when an opportunity to go study did arise, she didn't follow up on it. Casey feels she needs to stay at home and keep an eye on her mother, a recovered meth addict with a history of bad relationships. In order to keep her clean, Casey acts as a helicopter mom to her own mom. She is clearly being held back in life because of this duty, though she doesn't seem to be resentful of it. What keeps her going is her passion for architecture, and since she lives in the mecca of modernism, at least she can act as a tour guide around Columbus and spread her love of boxy buildings. Although the film is conversation-based, it also features a lot of visual storytelling, employing the good old principle of show don't tell, and so a lot of the characterization is conveyed visually. For example, one of the landmark buildings shown in the film is the Miller House. It's one of Casey's top 5 favorites, and we get a prominent shot of this table filled with glass art. Later, a similar shot appears inside Casey's own home. She emulated the Miller House by assembling her own collection of glass trinkets on a side table, showing her interest in the building and suggesting a desire to be closer to the architectural world. Enter Jin, the son of a renowned architecture professor who suffered a stroke while visiting Columbus to give a lecture. Jin has a strained relationship with his father, feeling that in Dad's eyes, he always played second fiddle to buildings. As a result, Jin hasn't inherited an interest in architecture at all.
I don't know shit about architecture or care.
Reluctantly, Jin stays in Columbus, where he waits for his father to become stable enough for transport back to Seoul. However, Jin hopes his father would hurry up and die in Columbus instead of dying later on in Korea. Back home, Jin would be required to make a show of mourning, something he absolutely doesn't feel like doing. Here we see Jin going through his father's stuff at the inn he was staying in. As he sits down, barely staying in the frame, Jin is reduced to a small childlike figure, while his father's suit hangs above him, an absentee father still looming over his son. Casey sees Jin and strikes up a conversation. Casey correctly guesses Jin is visiting his ailing father because she was going to go to his lecture and knows about the stroke. They begin to move along the fence, separated but now walking towards a mutual understanding. When they exchange first names, they finally arrive at an opening. No longer separated, a connection is made. In the first tender moment between them, Casey gives Jin a tour guide lecture about the Irwin Union Bank. It's a memorized, rehearsed speech filled with dull facts.
Sorry, what?
What are you doing?
What?
Who are you?
Jin teases her about it and asks her why she actually loves this building so much, pushing Casey to divulge how it makes her feel. The audience doesn't get to hear what she says because the shot switches to an angle from inside the building, and Casey's now behind glass. But her actual words aren't as important as seeing her light up. Here, Haley Lou Richardson perfectly sells Casey's passion. It's obvious that her feelings about the building are genuine, not just based on factual information about the building's uniqueness. She goes on to show Jin all the landmark houses in town, and his disinterest in architecture gradually melts. They both open up about their family issues and encourage each other. Casey is horrified to hear Jin's stance on his father.
You obviously don't get that, do you? Because you're here hoping that your dad dies so you don't have to mourn for him.
Her own devotion to her mother rubs off on him, and his time in Columbus causes him to reflect on his relationship with Dad. On the other hand, once Jin learns about Casey's unrealized opportunity to leave town, he pushes her to accept it and even pulls some strings to hasten the process.
The reason I'm telling you this and the reason your mother is telling you this is because you are smart and talented. You could do a lot better.
At the start of the film, they are polar opposites of each other, and by the end, they switch roles and thus grow as people. He finally accepts his filial duty and settles in Columbus long-term until his father wakes up from coma. She finally lets go of her filial duty and moves out of Columbus to pursue studies, free from caring for her mother. The film is satisfyingly bookended with this symmetrical shot of the Robert Stewart Bridge. At the beginning, Jin arrives. At the end, Casey departs. Like a modernist building, the film is deceptively simple at first glance, but rich and complex on closer inspection. It also has a few more subplots going on, and 2 more characters I haven't even mentioned. Plus, Kogonada's visual style extends to an interesting use of reflections throughout the movie, which one can read more into and find new interpretations. Basically, this movie has everything.
And you didn't know anything about it?
Nothing.
Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please hit subscribe.